everybody, it's Emma here. Thank you for joining me and welcome to this practice. Today we are going to cover 8 poses leading up to practicing bridge pose, one of the foundational back bends of the yoga practice. And this class is a no flow class, so there's no vinyasas, no planks to low planks, etc. But there is a little bit of wrist work and a little bit of kneeling. So if you would like to pad underneath those joints, grab yourself a blanket or just be ready to double your mat over. But blanket is much more straightforward. Okay, when you're ready, come and join me in a comfortable seat. And let's begin to move the spine in some of the other directions. So bridge pose is a back bend, taking the spine away from the center line of the body and going backwards in space. But first of all, before we do that, we want to move in the other directions as well. So we're going to start with a lateral spinal flexion. So bring your right hand outside your right hip and reach high with the left. And then take a flexion over to the right side. And you can deepen the pose using your right hand and also by bending your right elbow. So just find the right amount of stretch into the left side body as you would like. And keep reaching all the while, reaching your fingertips away from the floor and up and over to the right side. Let's go to the other side. Breathe in, reach up, and take your right arm up and flex over. So once again, use your elbow, use your hand to go just as far as you want to go. Remember, it's only the first pose. We're just getting started. Okay, now what we're going to do is we'll just flow from side to side a few times. So flow with your breath. Inhaling to reach up and over, and then exhaling, bringing your hand up and over. So both of those sounded the same. I think you know what I mean. And let's keep going for a few more. Okay, we'll do one more on each side. So once more to the right. And once more to the left. Good. Reach up and come back to your starting point. Give the shoulders a little movement. Okay, so lateral flexion, check. Let's now do a spinal twist. Let's start in Dandasana with the legs out in front. And then bend your right knee and cross your foot over your left leg. And hold on to the right knee with the left hand. Sit tall into the spine. And bring your right hand behind you. Lengthen and breathe in. And breathe out for a rotation. Slow, steady breaths. With every twist, you don't have to deepen it once you've gone to the first point. It's completely optional how far in you travel. Okay, let's come back to face forward. Return to Dandasana. And then bring your left knee up and cross your foot over the right. Reach up and bring your left hand behind you. Long spine. And then twist as you breathe out. For about 4 or 5 breaths. Good. Let's come back to face forward. Let's go back to Dandasana with the left leg, and then we're going to move over and finish off our spinal movement. So we've gone in every direction with cat and cow. So come over to a table, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Level spine, gazing down. And then let's inhale, drop the belly, lift the tail, send the chest through. And then breathe out, round your tailbone under, bring your chin to your chest, and push into the space between your shoulders. Let's carry on. Inhale, chest down. Tummy down, chest up and forward. And round, exhale. Okay, we'll carry on. We'll do about another 3 or 4 rounds. You don't need to go at any particular speed. Just go at your own pace of breath. And as you know, if you practice with me regularly, I can't count anyway. So, never could. Not while teaching yoga anyway. Okay, let's do one more. So the round that you're on, finish that off. Into your cat stretch, belly in, push the floor away, and then come back to neutral. We'll just walk the hands back and come off the wrist for just a little moment. Give them a little rotation, interlace the fingers, roll the wrists around. That's a nice way to release the tension. Okay, so now we're going to come back and we're going to practice dancing cat. Well, first of all, we'll get into balancing table, then we'll go into the dancing cat, and then we'll head on to a lunge. All right, so let's come back to table, and we'll stretch the right foot to the back of the mat. Come onto the toes and push the heel away, shoulders over the wrists. And then reach your right heel back, lift it up, and send your left fingers forward. So your palm faces the right. Get yourself steady, navel in up to the spine. And then bend your right knee and sweep your left hand behind. See if you can make a connection. If the connection's not available, no bother. Just send your hand and your foot in the direction of each other. And keep breathing wherever you are. For another 2 or 3. If you've got the connection, see if you can lift your knee up a little. Keep the belly drawing in. And then carefully we'll release back into balancing table and then into our tabletop. Okay, let's go straight to the other side. So step your left foot back, push your toes down and your heel draws away. Engage your Untitled Bandha, so navel up. And then reach your right arm forward, lift your left heel. Okay, so switch everything on in the center of the body to get steady. All right, let's move on to balancing cat, dancing cat. Bend your left knee, sweep your right hand around, connect your foot. Maybe lift high with the knee. Stay for another 3 breaths. Another 2. And 1. Let's reach away. And exhale, hand and knee back to the mat. Let's walk off the wrists. Have a little bit of movement through the wrists. Okay, good. So we'll just do one more kneeling pose, and it's going to be a low lunge. And we'll just take a little extra backward movement with the back knee. So step your right foot forward and come into your low lunge shape. Actually, bring your hands to the mat. I didn't get you into that very well. And take your left knee further back. So keep going until you think, okay, that's enough. And then you can either keep your toes tucked or untuck them. And then breathe in to come up. And for this lunge, I want you to imagine that you're tucking, not imagine, if you can, tuck your tailbone under. And you should feel more intensity into the left hip at this moment. Let's take the hands behind us and interlace the fingers. And then send your hands away from your lower back if that's okay. Keep the belly drawing in so you have the core muscles switched on. Option to open and lift up the chest. And maybe gaze up as well. Stay with your breath for another 3, 2, and 1. Take your gaze forward if it was up. Release your hands, frame your right foot. Take your right foot back and come back into a table, and then step your left foot through. And again, wriggle the back knee further along the mat if that's available. And breathe in and come up. Tuck your tail under so that you can feel some activation here, taking the hip into an extended position. Hands behind the back, interlace the fingers, wrap the shoulder blades in, engaging the core muscles, navel to spine, shoulders are back, chest is open, maybe gaze up. Let's stay for another 3, 2, and 1. Gaze forward if you're not looking forward. Release your hands and take your left knee back. Okay, jolly good. Okay, so now we're going to come down to the mat and we're going to do 3 back bends before we practice our bridge. Okay, so come down to reverse corpse, so lying all the way down on your front. And this is not one of your 8 poses, by the way. This is just going to transition us between kneeling and being down on the mat. So just allow everything to settle. Okay, let's move on. The first back bend is Locus Pose. Bring your big toes to touch. And then have your arms at the side of the body with your palms facing up. And hover your nose close to the mat. We'll try and keep the big toes together if we can. But if they fall apart, no stress. Let's take a big inhale. Lift the feet, lift the arms, and keep gazing down. Find as much lift as you can through the legs, maybe even the thighs, lifting the arms, the shoulders, and maybe the ribs. Stay for another 3, 2, and 1. Come down. Rest the chin on the hands. Maybe curl the toes under and give the hips a little bit of a wriggle. Good, have a little rest. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do next while you're having a little rest. We're going to practice upward facing dog next. If upward facing dog is not in your practice, then you could do a Sphinx or a Cobra instead. If you're going to come into upward facing dog, your feet will still be quite close together. They don't necessarily have to touch. And then you'll bring your hands to the bottom of the rib cage and pull the shoulders up and down the back and have a right angle at your elbows. Okay, let's slide the chest through and push up to straight arms. So tending your chest forward, and then you can either stay with your knees down or push into the mat and come up so that only your hands and your feet are touching the mat. Shoulders back, belly in. Stay for 3, 2, and 1. Drop your knees down if they're up and send the hips back. We're not going all the way to child's pose, but just start to take the hips back and have a little stretch in the back. Not a big one. It's not really a great idea to go straight from quite a challenging back bend like upward facing dog into child's pose, which is, of course, forward fold. All right, so just a little movement, and then come to the middle of your mat. Okay, so now, we're on pose 8 already. We're going to do a gentle camel, and we're going to take the hands behind the back, a bit like we did in the lunge, and open up the shoulders and the chest, and reach the hands in an interlaced bind behind us. Okay, so for camel pose, come up to stand, hips over knees, and have your feet in line with your knees. And you can either have the tops of your feet down or you can curl the toes under. We're not going to go all the way back, so in a way it doesn't really matter. Wrap the shoulder blades back and take your hands behind you. Interlace your fingers. And then keeping the hips drawing forward, I want you to start to lift your chest and your gaze up. And maybe lift your hands up off your lower back. Now, I want you to stay with steady breaths. Keep the hips gently pulling forward. Let's have another 2. 1. And then slowly bring your gaze back to face forward. Release your hands and just sit down, hips onto the heels. And just let the energy settle for a moment. Don't go into a fold or anything else for a minute. And then the next pose is going to be our bridge. So for that, we'll come down. In a moment, we'll just carry on letting the camel pose settle for a mo. And then we're going to do the shoulder bridge today. Oh, actually, let's do 2. Let's do the traditional bridge and then let's do the shoulder bridge. Okay, so come down to your back. And let's start off in constructive rest. So take your time, come down, have the knees bent and the soles of the feet flat on the mat. I'm going to add in just a little extra movement. It's not a sneaky pose in, it's just movement. So we'll just sway the knees a little. My eyes are swaying. It's 31 degrees outside. And my menopausal eyes are actually sweating. Grim. Okay, let's set up our feet hip width apart, heels in towards the bum, and arms at the side of the body with the palms down. So the feet, the knees, the hips, and in fact the shoulders are all aligned. So this is a traditional alignment for bridge. We'll do the traditional bridge first. So I want you to push down into your feet and into the back of your arms, and then scoop your tail into the air and lift your hips up. Keep pushing down into your feet and your arms, and think about lifting the front of your hips as high as you can. Let's stay for another 4 breaths. 3, 2, take a last breath in, and then exhale, bring your spine down to the mat. No hurry to do that. When you land, no movement again, just be still. And then maybe just a very gentle, tiny windscreen wiper movement. Okay, so now let's do the shoulder bridge. If you don't want to do the shoulder bridge for any reason, repeat the traditional bridge. Okay, heels under the knees, close in towards the sit bones. And so this time we'll interlace the hands, bringing the fingers down to touch the mat and wrapping the shoulder blades in. So we climb up higher onto the shoulders. Okay, so push down into your feet. Lift up through your tail and then draw one shoulder under, then the other. Wrap your fingers into a bind and have the pinky fingers touching the mat. So we climb up onto the shoulders, we keep lifting high with the hips, and we'll stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gently release your shoulders, bring your arms back to the sides, and slowly lower your hips down onto the mat. Once again, be still. When you land, And then have a little windscreen wiper movement. Good. Okay. Let's straighten the left leg carefully. Gently bring the right knee in. Relax your shoulders down. I'm just having a little movement with my ankle. You might want to do the same. And hold your right knee in your left hand. Take your right arm out and bring your knee over to the left side. You might want to turn to the right. Okay, bring everything back to the center, and in fact bring the left knee in as well. Right foot down, straighten your right leg, and hug your left knee in. Again, if you wish, you could have a little bit of a rotate around left ankle. Okay, let's go to the twist. Right hand will pull the left knee over to the right. Reach your left arm out. You can look to the left if you like. Okay, let's come back to the center. Gently bring the right knee in as well. Have a very gentle hug in. Okay, so from here, you're almost there. You could come into constructive rest, drop the feet to the mat, arms at the side, and take a rest there. Or you could go to a shavasana to rest the body. And have about 5 minutes if you have the time available. Or just maybe a minute if that's all you have. But it would be really nice to take a little extended rest after your practice. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon on the next video.